Nothing could be finer than a Buffalo win in Carolina. And the way the Bills dismantled the Panthers, Charlotte left zero doubts about what kind of team showed up after the bye week. Hungry, angry, and ready to dominate. A 40-9 victory isn't just a win, it's a statement. And it came at exactly the right time. After back-to-back losses and a bye that felt like it lasted a month, Buffalo needed a spark. They didn't just find it. They ignited a firestorm. Let's be honest, this one was over by halftime. The Bills came out swinging, and the guy leading the charge was James Cook. If you didn't know the name before, you do now. 19 carries, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he didn't even need the fourth quarter. That wasn't just a good game. That was a historic performance. The best by a Bills running back since 1976. Cook looked like a back possessed. Patient at the line, explosive through the gaps, violent in contact. This wasn't just about numbers. It was about how he ran. Vision, burst, power. He controlled the pace, the tempo, the energy. The Panthers came in ranked top 10 in EPA per run. They'd held their last 3 opponents to a combined 131 rushing yards. James Cook alone put up more than that by a mile. And while he's going to get all the headlines, rightfully so, let's not ignore the big boys up front. The offensive line opened holes all afternoon. Reggie Gilliam did the dirty work. The tight ends were sealing edges like it was a clinic. Even the wideouts contributed with blocks and space. That was a full-team commitment to running the football. The result? 245 rushing yards as a team. 12 first downs on the ground. That's physical football. That's Buffalo football. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. The passing game? Still not clicking the way you want it to. Josh Allen finished with just 163 yards through the air. That's not the kind of stat line we're used to seeing from number 17. He was efficient in spots, but the rhythm just wasn't there. The connection with receivers fell off. Maybe it's scheme, maybe it's personnel, maybe it's just one of those stretches. But something isn't quite right when it comes to throwing the football. That said, there was one bright spot in the air attack, and his name is Khalil Shakir. 6 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. That opening drive score? Perfect execution. Blitz comes, Allen finds Shakir right behind it, and he does the rest. House call. That play alone changed the game. From that moment, Carolina looked like they knew what was coming. But Shakir wasn't done. He was the most consistent target throughout the day, and in a passing offense that's still trying to figure itself out, he brought some much-needed life. Still, let's not kid ourselves. The passing game needs work. It needs more creativity. It needs better execution. And maybe, just maybe, it needs help. With the trade deadline looming, it's hard not to think about whether Buffalo makes a move for a playmaker. Because right now, outside of Shakir, nobody's consistently winning matchups. There were too many dead drives, too many missed opportunities, and too many moments where the Bills just couldn't find a rhythm in obvious passing situations. That's not sustainable against playoff-caliber teams. But here's the thing. When you drop 40 points and win by 31, you get to nitpick a little, especially when the defense plays like that. 7 sacks, 3 takeaways, 9 points allowed, total domination. Andy Dalton had no answers. And yes, he's a backup, but that's exactly the kind of performance you want against a backup. Suffocate, pressure, frustrate. That's what Buffalo did. And what makes this defensive performance so encouraging is all the newness. Coming out of the bye, Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich clearly spent time tweaking, testing, and unleashing. We saw first-round rookie Maxwell Harrison get meaningful snaps at cornerback. We saw Jordan Hancock working into the safety rotation. Cam Lewis out there. Dorian Williams stepping in at linebacker. And all of them contributing. There was a freshness to this defense, a hunger. Guys flying to the ball, filling gaps, finishing tackles. And then there's Michael Hoy. The guy was everywhere. 1.5 sacks, a forced fumble, quarterback hits. He made his presence felt. That interior pass rush was relentless. And getting Larry Ogunjobi back only made things worse for Carolina. The rotation up front was eating. Ed Oliver, Russo, Phillips, Epineza, splash play after splash play. This was as complete a defensive effort as we've seen from Buffalo all season. And the most important stat? Third downs. Carolina went 4 for 11. That's how you get off the field. That's how you control a game. Pair that with the turnovers, and you got a formula for a blowout. The Panthers had just 244 total yards. The Bills had 410. That's domination on both sides of the ball. Now let's go back to game flow. Because if you just read the box score, you might miss how fast this game got out of hand. Carolina had a few early opportunities. One drive stalled out after a sack. Another one ended in a Greg Rousseau forced fumble. Then came the A.J. Epineza interception, and that was the moment. The air went out of the building. The Panthers knew it. The fans knew it. And the Bills smell blood. Suddenly it's 26-3, and Josh Allen is running in a short touchdown. Then it's 33-3. And from there, it's just a matter of running out the clock. The fourth quarter was all backups. Mitch Trubisky came in. Ray Davis got carries. The Bills weren't even trying to push the tempo, and they still racked up points and yards. That's the sign of a complete team. Win ugly. Win big. Win without everything going right. Because, yeah, there's work to be done, especially in the passing game. But if you can dominate the trenches, run the football, and generate havoc on defense, you're going to be in a position to win a lot of football games. And how about that crowd? Bank of America Stadium turned red, white, and blue. Bills Mafia took over. Easily 65, maybe 75% of that stadium was cheering for Buffalo. It was loud. It was passionate. And you could feel it. That kind of support on the road matters. It energizes the team. It demoralizes the opponent. It felt like a home game. And maybe that's the real story here. Because after a rough couple of weeks, with questions swirling about both sides of the ball, the Bills didn't just respond. They answered with authority. A team that had been knocked off course came out of the bye locked in, fired up, and ready to remind everyone why they're still a legitimate contender in the AFC. Even with such a dominant showing, there's no escaping the concern surrounding the passing game. That area of Buffalo's offense continues to feel disjointed. Josh Allen finished the game with just 12 completions on 19 attempts for 163 yards and a single passing touchdown. That's a pedestrian stat line for a quarterback who has, at times, carried this franchise with his arm. And while it was enough to help secure a blowout win, there's no denying that the passing attack is out of sync and lacking identity. Part of the issue is the receiving core. With Josh Palmer unavailable, the options simply weren't there. Outside of Khalil Shakir, who turned in a fantastic performance, no one really stepped up. The separation wasn't happening. Routes weren't clean. At times, it felt like Allen had no one to throw to. That's not a recipe for long-term success, especially when you start looking at the stretch of schedule ahead. Teams like Kansas City, Miami, and other playoff hopefuls will not give you the same margin for error that Carolina did. But it wasn't just about the receivers. Josh Allen himself had moments where the execution just wasn't sharp. He missed throws, rushed decisions, and took a couple of sacks that could have been avoided. One moment, in particular, stands out: third down inside the red zone early in the game. Allen doesn't account for a free rusher, takes a sack, and the Bills are forced to settle for a field goal. On another drive, after a promising start, a misfire followed by a penalty derails the entire sequence. These are the kinds of lapses that can swing momentum against better opponents. The second quarter showcased how fragile the passing rhythm can be right now. After the explosive touchdown run from James Cook, the next possession saw Buffalo lean into the pass game, and it was 3 plays and a punt. Incomplete to Elijah Moore, a short run, and then another incompletion on third down. No rhythm, no flow. That's the frustrating part. This team is capable of so much more through the air, but the confidence isn't there. You can almost sense the hesitation, both from the play caller and from Allen himself. And that's what's so baffling. This is a quarterback who, at his best, plays with a fearless swagger. But lately, it's looked more like hesitation than aggression. Whether it's because of trust issues with the receiving options or simply a lack of chemistry, there's a clear disconnect. And while the running game bailed them out in Carolina, that won't always be the case. A one-dimensional offense isn't going to survive in the postseason. If there was ever a time to consider making a move, it's now. The trade deadline is looming, and Buffalo has to consider bringing in another playmaker at wide receiver. Someone who can win one-on-one. someone who can stretch the field, someone who gives Allen another option when the structure of the play breaks down. Because right now, the offense feels limited, and not because of talent at quarterback, but because of what's around him. What's worse is that this isn't the first time we've seen this. This is now multiple games in a row where the passing game has looked stuck. And it's not like Carolina brought an elite pass defense into this matchup. In fact, they were ranked 26th in the league in EPA per pass allowed. That's near the bottom. So if Buffalo is struggling to move the ball through the air against that, what happens when they face teams with real pass rush and solid coverage units? The contrast between the run and pass game is startling. You had a day where the Bills averaged almost 7 yards per play. You had 23 first downs. You scored 40 points. And yet, if you just watched the passing game in isolation, you would have thought Buffalo lost. That's how disconnected that part of the offense felt from the rest. And while yes, Cook's performance allowed them to mask it, you can only hide those kinds of issues for so long. And this is where coaching has to step in. Whether it's play design, route concepts, or overall approach, something has to shift. You can't keep running out the same passing concepts and hoping for a different result. And if the personnel doesn't allow for it, then the front office needs to step in. This is a team with championship aspirations. That means there's no time to wait and hope it gets better. Action is needed. Now, shifting back to the positives, because there were plenty, this defense looked like it was reborn. After a few weeks of uncertainty, injuries, and uneven performances, the Bills came out of the bye with a defense that looked fast, physical, and aggressive. The pass rush was relentless. 7 sacks. The coverage was tight. The tackling was crisp. And the turnovers kept coming. This wasn't just a good performance. It was a total reset. And what makes it even more impressive is how many new contributors were involved. Maxwell Harrison stepping in at corner and making plays. Jordan Hancock rotating in at safety and holding his own. Dorian Williams pressed into duty at linebacker, making key stops. Joe Andre mixing in as a third linebacker in certain looks. This wasn't the typical Bills defense. This was a patched-up, reshuffled unit that looked every bit as dominant as any version we've seen in recent years. Ed Oliver was a force early on. Greg Rousseau was disruptive, with one of the biggest plays of the game on a strip sack that halted a promising Panthers drive. Michael Hoy made splash plays all game long. Epeneza had a sack and nearly turned his interception into a pick six. It was wave after wave of pressure, and Carolina simply had no answers. The run defense, a major point of criticism all season, also showed real improvement. The Panthers came in with a strong ground game, and yet Buffalo held them to just over 4 yards per carry. That's manageable. That's progress, especially considering how banged up the linebacker group was coming into this one. There were no busted gap assignments, no missed tackles in critical moments. The Bills were disciplined and physical at the point of attack. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. The NFL world is buzzing after shocking comments from Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen, who allegedly stated, "If he comes to the Bills, I'm leaving." The remark, which surfaced through social media whispers and insider chatter, has ignited a firestorm of speculation about potential roster moves, locker room tensions, and the future of one of the league's most promising franchises. Fans, analysts, and fellow players are now left scrambling to piece together who he might be and what it could mean for Buffalo's championship aspirations. Rumors are swirling that the cryptic comment may refer to a high-profile, free agent or trade target whose arrival could upset the team's chemistry. Some insiders suggest it could involve a star wide receiver currently dominating headlines, while others whisper about a controversial defensive player whose presence might overshadow Allen's leadership. Regardless of the specifics, the notion that the Bills' franchise quarterback might bolt if a single player joins the roster has left front offices across the league on alert. Within Buffalo, sources claim that tension has been simmering behind the scenes for months. Allen, known for his fierce competitiveness and loyalty to his teammates, may feel that certain personalities could disrupt the locker room harmony he's worked so hard to cultivate. Coaches and executives are reportedly weighing multiple scenarios, from quiet negotiations to potential trade-offs, all while attempting to keep the team focused on the season ahead. The fan base, meanwhile, is divided. Some argue that Allen is speaking from a place of passion, signaling his commitment to winning with the right personnel around him. Others worry that the drama could spiral into a full-blown rift, leaving the franchise facing impossible decisions before the next season even begins. Sports talk shows, podcasts, and Twitter feeds have exploded with speculation, theories, and heated debates, turning what might have been an offhand comment into one of the most tantalizing storylines in recent NFL history. While nothing is confirmed, one thing is clear: Buffalo's offseason just got a whole lot more interesting. Every move, every whisper, and every negotiation will now be analyzed through the lens of Allen's explosive declaration. Fans will be watching closely, knowing that the next twist could reshape not only the Bills' roster, but potentially the trajectory of their star quarterback's career. The rumor mill is in full swing, and the league is holding its breath. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.